kids are literally dancing in the background. All the music's playing. Welcome, everybody, to Mongols. This is our reaction show where we'll sort of share our thoughts a little bit less than 24 hours after the Hounds lost 2-1 to Indy. Joining me for this one, Josh and Steve. Josh, it was bobblehead night. You got your bobblehead, didn't you?
Yeah. Sure did. Looks great. Gotta love it.
How is it scale-wise to the ammo one? Are they like the same size?
Actually, I think my ammo one's downstairs right now.
No, I think it's
well, no, that's the old ammo.
That's the old one.
Yeah. This one that I'm showing on camera for all the audio listeners is I want to say 2002 is when they did this one. I don't know. It was when we still wore red. So a long time ago.
Yeah. You're happy with how it turned out?
No, it looks great. Yeah, I really like it. It's fun. It's cool to actually have a player bobblehead now. Like, I was super excited for the ammo one, but actually to have like them start pumping out stuff with players on it, I think is awesome. It's something that we always joke about, 1 year contract with 1 year option. You don't get to do it with a lot of players.
Yeah.
It's a risk having a bobblehead of a player that might only be around for a year. But yeah, Forbes is a great choice, and having all the accolades on the box was really cool too. I'm not going to show on camera because it's all backwards and everything like that, but the box itself has like on the side telling you everything that he's accomplished in his career, especially for the Hounds. So that's really cool.
I wanted to ask you too, real quick. How were the scarves selling? The Pride Raiser scarves?
Good. Yeah. So we actually were able to get them into the Riverhounds store yesterday as well.
Oh, really?
So if you go to the actual store, you can buy a scarf there. Or you can come to our tailgate and buy a scarf. And I believe they will be putting the scarves online here shortly on their web store. So you can, if you can't make it to a game, you can actually go to their website and buy it through their store.
That's fantastic.
Man, this Steel Army merch guy is real good.
If I was really good, I'd probably be shipping them out of our store too. But they get people paid to ship them, and
so we should give that guy a raise. But
I think the raise is just being the merch guy.
Off camera, Liz did just give me.
So they're about the same size.
So ammo's a little bit taller, which is what you expect with that giant head of his. So it's good.
Nice. Steve, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yeah. Got out on my kayak yesterday, which was great to get out on the water for the first time this season. Rory was a little skeptical again at first, so I think it'll take a couple more trips before he gets settled. But the best part about it with him, we were out probably for almost 3 hours. The last 20 minutes rowing back, he's laying in the front of the kayak, and he's just his eyes are just closing. He's trying to keep them open, closing, trying to keep them open. So I'm just laughing the whole time because he did not want to miss anything, but he was just exhausted at that point. So ton of fun to take him out and get out on the water. So
where'd you guys go?
We were out at Raccoon Creek State Park.
Oh, nice.
The lake there. Yeah. Which is, it's great, right? It's about a 3-mile loop to do the outskirts of the lake. So it's nice, right? North Park, you've got to do that twice. I've done Brady's Run, which I'll never do again because you've got to do it 5 times to get something similar. So having a place that's that close, takes me 25 minutes to get there. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
really, really cool. We're supposed to take a canoe/kayak trip potentially end of this month, and so everybody's really looking forward to it. We're looking forward to getting back on the water.
Nice.
I'd love to keep talking about stuff that we're looking forward to.
No, Mike, how are you? How are you?
Oh, me? Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
Same old. No big deal. Yeah, no, my wife was sort of all over the place this weekend, so I was kind of holding down the fort with the boys. So got a lot of little stuff done around the house. But yeah, tomorrow we're supposed to go up to Penn State to get a tour for Ollie, just to sort of check that out. We'll see. The user experience of trying to get there is already driving me nuts because they said that 12 hours before we're supposed to arrive, they're going to email me a code that I can then go to their website and enter that code, and that will tell me where I should park. And I'm like, well, we're supposed to be there at 11 a.m. So does that mean I'm supposed to stay up till 11 p.m. to get this code just so I know where I'm supposed to park? And it's all just backwards. So, yeah, not a fan.
Well, I'll look forward to hearing how that goes from both
Yeah.
you and from him.
We shall see. Guys, let's talk about this game. I mentioned in the intro, Hounds lost 2-1 to Indy. Our goal came from Danny Griffin, who celebrated by gesturing to his fiance because it was her birthday. So it seemed like he dedicated it to her, which is cool. Lots of takeaways, lots of things to discuss from this one. Josh, I'm going to let you start. Pick a takeaway, and we'll go from there.
Oh man. Okay. It was nice. I don't know. Like the first half, it definitely felt like we were firing on all cylinders, except for actually scoring. But I guess this can be said about the whole game. But so many opportunities. Like actually, it was nice to see chances in goal and like actually on target. Some of them, not all just kind of flying wide. There's plenty of those. But just actually making those opportunities is a positive there. And then, just the actual goal itself. Feel like, especially when it happened, it was feeling really down in the stadium and on the field. Like the players did not look all that strong. So it was nice to see Griffin, just say, nope, we're doing this and like go for it. And get that goal and take that opportunity and that chance and putting it away. So those are some positive things that happened last night.
I will say that I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but I did get the sense that if it was going to happen, it was going to come from Griffin. It felt like he was adamant on sort of getting in the positions to get the shot. He had one earlier in the game that hit the crossbar, then the side post, and then went wide. He hit this one from 25 yards out to put it in. He tried again later in the game. He got on the end of a cross from, I think it was Mertz, towards the very end of the game to get his head on it. Like he desperately wanted to kind of drag this team kicking and screaming into the goal category. So I would say that's a positive if we're going to talk about positives first. Steve, give me a takeaway.
I mean, yeah, I'm going to continue kind of on that theme, but in terms of the number of opportunities that we had in this game, I mean, we had 25 shots. We had 9 shots on target. We had 18 shots in the box. We had 12 corners. And in spite of all that, right, like our goal came from outside the box.
Right.
But I think what's like really concerning for me is if we can't score when we have all those opportunities, where are we going to score? And okay, maybe something will change at some point this season, but I just don't see anybody that has that killer instinct right now to put goals away. And so right now we're at 0.92 goals a game through these first 12 games. The worst we've ever been under Bob was in his first season, scoring 1.44 goals a game, right? Right now, if we don't pick up the goal scoring pace, we're on pace to score less goals than we scored in the short 2020 season, which was, I mean, granted, that was a season where we were playing in a much smaller pod where we were by far the best team and everybody else was not very good. And then when we actually faced a good team, we didn't do so well. But still, right? Like we scored 39 goals that season, right? We're on pace to score 31 right now by the end of the season if we don't find a way to start scoring goals.
I'd be curious though if we were to do like midway stats for other seasons, because I do feel like there's been plenty of times where we start out slow. So like the trend is always that we will ramp up and start scoring these goals. We'll have a lot of opportunities at the beginning of the season, then actually start putting away opportunities later in the season. I'm hoping that's what's happening right now. I don't feel as confident as I have in years past because of the fact that I don't see, Mike, you said earlier, like you kind of had a feeling if it was going to happen, it was going to be Griffin. I don't want that to be the midfielder
Right.
responsibility for a goal. Like we have forwards for a reason. They should be scoring goals.
It feels to me.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say it feels to me almost like we're on this weird like knife's edge almost where if you're Bob, you could say, look at how many chances we created. Like at some point they need to start going in. If we put away 1, 2 of those chances, Steve, we're sitting on the 3-2 win that we were laughing with Liz about in the prediction show. Like, yeah, right. Okay. But I mean, EJ missed a sitter. Suber missed a sitter. Like we have guys that are in positions, and if they put those away, we're having a completely different podcast at this point. So this could go one of two ways. A, it can stay exactly as it's going right now, and we're just going to keep creating a ton of chances, and we're going to give up 1 or 2 goals, and we're going to keep losing games. Or a few of those chances are going to start actually going in, and all of a sudden we're hot and we're on a winning streak. And it's just, I don't know what you do. It's tough.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just doesn't feel good though to see a game like that where it's like you felt like if you just watched what the Hounds did and you didn't see anything about Indy's goals, anybody that watches that is gonna be like, wow, that was a dominant game, man, great win, Pittsburgh, right? But we couldn't do what was necessary to get the win, and I think that's the thing that's frustrating and demoralizing at this point is we've only done that a couple of times this season. Is the things to get the win. We've been giving up goals. We've been chasing games. We've been now losing 2 in a row, right? And so when does that change? And like you brought it up, you both brought it up, right? Like Danny saying, I'm going to find a way to get something going, right? But we've got 11 goals at this stage of the season. 3 from Kizza, 3 from Sterling, 3 from Danny, 1 from Hogan, 1 from Deanne. Like, we're not even finding ways to get goals around the field even, right? Like, our goals are concentrated in a mostly defensive, sometimes attacking midfielder and 2 forwards. And we're 12 games in and our 2 forwards have 6 goals combined. That's problematic.
Yeah. Agreed.
I
think what hurt too yesterday was that second goal in particular just felt like I was watching the Memphis game on repeat, where it was just like, okay, we're down 1-0. We're the better team. We're going to go into halftime. We're going to come out. We're going to make something happen. And then it's just like, boom, right after halftime, they hit us on the counter and they score. And my concern is that, Josh, to your point, you mentioned like if you were to go back and watch that game, we were the dominant team the entire. We looked really good. We were creating tons of chances. Our defense was pushed way up and keeping them pinned back. Last week, I gave Suber a whole lot of crap. I thought Suber looked decent this game. Like he was connecting on passes. He had the one cross in the box that Asumanu got a clear header on, and the keeper ended up saving it. But it does. As I'm watching it, I went, oh, okay. Like it feels like our defense is really good at playing in the other team's half when we're pressing the game, because essentially what happens is the other team, when it's that compact, their objective is just to sort of knock it out. And we've got big bodies that are winning headers and keeping the ball in their half. So great. We're getting the ball. We're distributing it well. Where we've been running into issues, at least the last few games, is in transition. When we're running backwards, trying to defend, I don't want to call him out specifically, but Asumanu was in no man's land on that cross. He was watching, like he was just watching the ball, and he had no idea who was around him, and it led to sort of an open tap in, and it just makes me wonder if I'm the Battery, or I'm Hartford, or I'm Louisville, basically our next 3 opponents. I'm watching the Memphis game and I'm watching the Indy game, and I'm going, oh, okay, so we're just gonna bunker and let them put all this pressure because they're not going to score. They can't score, and then we'll just hit them on the counter, and we'll get 2 goals, and then we'll just bunker the rest of the game, and you leave with 3 points, because that's been the template these past few games. So I don't know what you beat that by scoring, like if you can actually score, then the other team can't just sit back the whole time and expect you not to score. But
But then if you do score with this team, then you're opening the game up where the other team is pushing. And I'm not convinced we're any better defensively when we're in those situations either. I mean, that's what we saw with the North Carolina game, right? I mean, they had something to play for and to chase the game, and they exposed us and still got their goal, right? So I don't know. I think I want to push a little bit more as well. I think both goals were completely preventable for the Hounds. I mean, you talked about the second one, but the first one, what was Langston doing? He ran towards the corner instead of staying on the man that he was marking, who's the guy that scored the goal, right? He just ran away from the guy, and the guy then has this free header in front of Dick. Like, mark your man.
Yeah. You mentioned
he still
Dick.
Scores, but yeah.
You mentioned Dick, so I guess we'll bring it up. Again, the goalie controversy continues. I think I'm firmly in. I think it was Justin who said a few weeks ago, like, he doesn't care who the keeper is until we start scoring. Like, I kind of feel that way too. Josh, you were in the Dick camp, weren't you?
Yeah. I definitely think Dick is the better keeper. After this game, I don't know. Like, I think I'm seeing the things Bob's seeing, and that first goal, I'm not willing to say was really Dick's fault there. Like, pretty much point blank header in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not his job to be covering the defenders or the attackers. I mean, so that's the defenders' jobs. So I can't blame him on that one. But that second one, just maybe it's because I was like right behind the goal in the Steel Army section, Paul Child stand, and like it felt like it happened in slow-mo, like how slow that ball was moving, and just it was just bad. It was bad all around. Obviously, it wasn't just on Dick, but that looked like a very safeable goal.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong if you think otherwise, but yeah, it looked like he was just planted and didn't even bother.
Yeah. I don't know what you do about the keeper situation at this point.
But I don't think it matters. Like Justin was saying, though, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like our issue, sure, those goals shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But maybe one of the two last night are on him. Like, if we had a better keeper, that would have gone in. But if he can't score goals, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we have to start scoring goals. We need to figure out the attack. We need to figure out how to make that happen, because the hopes and dream chart, I don't know if anyone's looked into that. Some people in the Steel Army have been bringing up, the statistics and all that kind of stuff, and it's very much our X goals or whatever are XG. Through the roof. They look great, and we just can't.
Yeah. At one point last night, I think they said that our XG was like 1.8 and theirs was like 0.6. This was when they were up 1-0. So like we were absolutely the more dominant team. I've been avoiding the hopes and dreams chart just because I know it's going to make me cry. Josh, one other thing that you had mentioned last week, we were talking about injuries, and we said, why, the Hounds are just keeping injuries a secret and blah, blah. There was another wrinkle in it this week, which was just interesting. I don't know if there's a ton to talk about here, but Mike DeShields, like, I think we threw out Mike DeShields' name last week as just like, if you're Mike DeShields and you're injured, like, does the other team really care? And I think you were saying, like, yeah, I'd care, because, like, I don't want people thinking that I'm crap. I want people to know that I'm injured. Sure enough, the team seems to be very secretive about the injury report. I saw John Krasinski put out an article on game day saying that there were no injuries to report. And then the announcers on the broadcast are like, oh, Mike DeShields is out with a hamstring injury. And it's like, why are we learning this from the announcers? Like, this is not a thing, guys. Come on. Like, when you,
and like, so like, how does this work? Okay. I'm thinking like the way the organization is. So like, how does the announcer know who's injured, but yet a reporter who I'm guessing asked, hey, is anyone injured? And was told no. Like, where's that disconnect? Like, what information does that announcer have access to? Or did we just ask again and they're like, well, actually, like, how's that work?
I mean,
Can I give a guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
for it, Steve.
I think it is a threshold of what different people are willing to disclose, and the coaching staff is never willing to disclose that because Bob doesn't want it disclosed. But if you ask the right person in the organization that has access to that info, they're going to say it because they're not bound, like their job's not bound to Bob.
See, that makes me wonder if I should just start asking the players when I talk to them each week, but then like, am I going to get them in trouble with Bob? So should I just avoid it? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, well, who knows? You know, I feel bad for Mike for having an hamstring injury, but
it's been a long one too.
Yeah. So hopefully, you know, he's able to recover from that. Speaking of in trouble with Bob, I was not there to see this, obviously, but Liz made a comment that during the post-game huddle, was it EJ and Sterling just left? What happened there?
A little bit. So it looked like Bob had finished up and had dismissed them, but then called them back to do like, you know, all hands and, you know, whatever they say. I can't hear them from where I'm at, but just kind of like do the last hurrah of the ending the huddle. And they had started jotting away and like we're coming towards the Sea Army section to, you know, slap hands, do all that kind of stuff. But I think they like heard him, but they like were so far away and they turned around and they were already starting to, they just kept on walking. They're like, we're not going to make it. And they kept on walking. I don't want to read too much into it.
Okay.
But they definitely turned around and made a decision. Nah, I'm good.
When Liz mentioned it on the full 90, I was like, wait a second, did Bob like call everyone in to talk? And then they just like stormed off towards the locker room. Like, I'm not doing this. So, okay.
No,
hold on now. Cause now Liz is getting into the comments and she's blowing this up. She's saying it was more than that, not saying full disrespect, but more than that. So she says that she disagrees with this man. So Josh,
quite often.
Apologies. It might be interesting in your household after we're done recording here.
Just waiting for her to like pop in.
Nah.
No, I know she won't, but
just like push Josh out of the way.
Yeah, like it was definitely, it felt like a little bit iffy, but at the same time, at that point, I think he had been on an 18 minutes, about 18 and 20 minutes of yelling at the team. So
yeah,
at what point are you? Oh, another fun thing that happened with the post-game huddle. The kids actually that are waiting to be led onto the field started chanting, let them go, let them go. So I thought that was pretty funny. We've done that chant before in the Steel Army section, but it was funny to hear a whole bunch of little kids chanting, let them go.
Yeah,
that's great.
That should we need to get audio of that next time, and that we can like fold that into our intro. We'll just like have that playing over the intro music. Yeah. One of the things that was interesting to me, I was trying to dissect like, okay, the day after, like, let's look at some stats. Let's look at what we're actually seeing. Are we seeing any trends? And something that sort of popped to me. If you go to the USL show page, you can dig up all sorts of the USL championship page, and you go into the game. You can pull up all sorts of stats about the game and positions and things like that. I was surprised because I was trying to get a sense of where we were positionally as a team. Because when we started, I was like, oh, this is interesting. It felt like in our midfield, we sort of had Griffin and Forbes as sort of holding midfielders, and Robbie was playing more of like a number 10, like the top of like a triangle. And I said, oh, this will be interesting. This was sort of something that we had talked about last week. Like maybe we need sort of a midfielder that's sort of pushing the attack that's there. And so I was like, oh, is this how it actually played out? That's not how it actually played out over the course of the game. What was interesting was whenever it sort of moves all the players into their average positions, which is a really cool thing to look at, Sterling and Mertz were literally on top of each other. And it made me think, I'm like, well, okay, you have these two guys that played together most of the game. And if their average position is the exact same spot, then that basically means that we're playing almost like with 10 men. Like that means that there's some other spot on the field that there isn't somebody, that there probably should be. And then I started to think a little bit more about how these games have been playing out recently and the contributions. And it got me thinking, and I'm interested in you guys' thoughts on this. To this point, there's been a lot of talk about Sterling. There's a lot of hopes about Sterling sort of being a Dequel replacement and sort of creating all sorts of stuff. But to this point, it feels like Sterling and Mertz are kind of the same player. Like they're occupying the same spaces. Their goal is the same. They're sort of picking up the ball and they're trying to make play happen for somebody else. And at this point, I'd have to say that I feel like Robbie's doing it more effectively. And that's not because I'm supposed to talk to him later this week. But I'm just curious what your thoughts are in terms of like, is that the right kind of thing? And if so, should we be either pushing Sterling further up the field or should we be playing somebody else like a DN whose average position was like square in the middle of the team's box? Like what are your thoughts, Steve? What are your thoughts on, Mertz and Sterling?
I think that, sure, I get where you're going with the average position. But if we say like for 45 minutes, one of them was basically in that spot, and for 45 minutes, the other one was basically in that spot. And in the rest of the 45 minutes, like they were out roaming around, it's going to default to where they were the most, right? So they may not have even, and I don't think they were occupying each other's space specifically in this game. But I get your point about, are they doing similar things? And I think there's a lot to that. And I think that's part of the problem, right? I mean, we talked about it the other day where I'd like to see Keziah a little deeper and Kizza a little more forward, and Robbie marauding around kind of around them. But it seems like Keziah is doing that, but he's not like playing as a forward in a lot of situations then, right? Like, and he needs to take that next step and get into the box even more than he is. And if you look at like his heat map, I mean, he was basically in that spot, a few yards ahead of that spot, I mean, probably 15 yards ahead of that spot, or right in front of goal. And those were like the three biggest heat spots that he was in. And so I just want to see him more in that, put him 22, 18, 12, 6 yards from the goal, and that's the spots that he's making a lot of his plays and runs into, because we don't need another guy that can drop deep and pepper the ball in, right? Like, we don't need a guy receiving the ball in those spots when we've got Forbes and Griffin and Mertz and Sample and pick up a wing back, right? Like, there's so many other guys that can do that. Is this a tactical decision? Is this a player style decision? Either way, something needs to change. You need somebody else to be doing something different if you want to do what we want, is score goals.
Josh, any thoughts on the Mertz Sterling conversation?
Well, so before the season started, when we heard about Sterling, we looked into him. Like, one thing that stood out, which is like how, like, he 48 appearances for Tormenta and 30 goals. Like, he is a goal scorer in that league. Now, is the difference between League One and Championship that big? Is that what we're seeing here? Or is it his position and what Bob's using him as? Because even taking, what he's being used as out of it, like what we've seen and what I've noticed is like he's really good at footwork. He's really good at finding that space and putting that through ball and like being clever, and like that's something we don't get a lot. So it is nice to see that, but that does mean that he is setting up someone else to score goals. And that seemed to be where he was heading, like what they were expecting, where he would, set up Kizza and Kizza would get it in net, but Kizza's not getting it in net. So I'm wondering if the situation is more that he was, the one that was going to get that through ball, and maybe that does eat up the space that Mertz usually provides, or like, the role Mertz usually provides. But I think it's also coloring our opinion on the situation because he's a forward. So like, is he doing it better than Mertz does? maybe if he was actually playing the midfielder position, we would think he was really good at that and would be what we would like to see. But he's not. He's supposed to be the forward. So like, I don't feel like we can judge him on the same parameters, because I do think I would rather have Mertz out there, but that's because Mertz is a midfielder, not a forward.
Or is it just that the style that Bob wants to play doesn't fit the style of play that Keziah is best at, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be the jump from League One to the championship.
For sure.
It could just be that maybe he's just not a good fit for this system.
Yeah. We've seen that in the past, where we'll bring in, the league's leading goal scorer, and he ends up riding the bench because he just doesn't fit the system.
What's interesting though, like whenever we've had that in the past, like you said, he sits the bench. Like, it's not like he is on the field every single game getting chances to prove himself. He sits the bench. And so that is something that's different this time, because it doesn't feel like Sterling is like, Bob isn't like upset with him and like just saying, no, you're not, you don't have enough hustle, or you're not working hard enough, or whatever that Bob usually, I feel like that's what it's been in the past for players who are really good, but they don't have the drive that Bob wants.
Yeah.
I feel like Sterling's probably has that drive. It's just, it's not working out.
Yeah. I do feel like, at least on the attacking side of things, this feels obvious. We have to figure something out. I think the fact that we had 12 corners, I think the fact that we were getting bodies into the box is great. That feels like the opposite of what we've been seeing in previous games. But you can't just get bodies in the box for the sake of getting bodies in the box, because then all you're doing is whipping a shot into the box, and it's like hope and prayer that somebody gets on the end of it. And sometimes that works, but the actual chances that were the most fruitful were when you had somebody like Blackstock or Etu or Kenny running deep and then like knocking it back out to the top of the 18, not just whipping balls into the box and hoping that somebody's there. And more often than not, even when they're dragging it back out to the top of the 18, it felt like we had guys that were just crashing the net and weren't necessarily there to pick up the ball at the top of the 18. So it just feels like, we got some work to do. And it's this is the thing about, the Hounds these past few seasons, is that it just feels like these first half could be just total, we're just head in our hands, and then something clicks, and then it's like, okay, we made up for it. Now look, we got a home playoff spot, and like all is well with the world. And it's just,
I don't feel that this year. I mean, honestly, I'm not feeling it. It feels like we're missing a piece. It doesn't feel like the pieces aren't, gelling. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll click, and then, the people who should be scoring goals are scoring goals. But right now, it just feels like we're missing that goal scoring piece. It's a Dequa-sized hole in this team.
The announcer said straight up, they were like, they need to sign a forward.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, there's a lot of time. They need to sign a forward. And, Mondo agrees. He thinks we need to be, we don't feel like a complete team.
I just remember Mondo gave me like all his notes about what he was watching during this game, and I totally forgot to pull them up. See, he's a real soccer watcher. He'll be taking notes during the game. Meanwhile, I'm just sobbing in my, drink.
Guys, any other takeaways before we move on?
No.
That's a big no.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
I want to get your well, Laura Ellen just asked a question, and then I have one more question for you guys as it relates to this game. Laura Ellen said, where do you propose that we get a forward? Honestly, you still have teams all over the USL that are signing players. They're either coming from other teams, but I think that Justin, does have a good point that come July, once the transfer market opens for MLS, you're going to find some guys that are on the fringe in MLS that aren't going to have a home. And that was how we got Kizza last year. So it might just be the case of we ride out the month of June, and then we see what's available, and we go shopping in MLS to try to get somebody in to try to make a difference. But yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean,
I thought
but
it
if
could be
that's what
fun
we're
to like
hoping
do.
for, right? Like,
Yeah. Steve, how do you? We're what 13 weeks into the season now. Just like give me a temperature check.
real low.
Real low. Okay.
Like what's I don't even know. Like, I don't know, scale. Like this.
Sure. Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs middle, thumbs down. You're in the
pretty close
thumbs
to
down
down, right?
category.
Like, unless something drastically changed. I mean, you guys were just talking about, right? Like, that we're missing a piece. I think we're missing more than one piece, but I think the big difference is I felt like we were missing something at the beginning of last season, but it was a definitive, identifiable gap that Danny Griffin was able to come back and fill. This year, okay, so we start scoring a lot of goals, but what happens when we face a team with a really strong defense and we can't find a way through and we're still leaking goals, right? Like, it's just the only bright spot about this team is that we've got quality in the midfield and on the wings, but we don't know how to score. We don't know how to defend when push comes to shove, right? Like, we haven't given up a ton of goals, but we're giving up important goals.
Yeah.
Josh, thumbs up, middle, or down?
I mean, definitely not thumbs up. Yeah, middle. I mean, like I still think there's plenty of time to right the ship, and we can get this figured out. It's just it is going to take more than what we have, I think, currently in the toolbox. But I do think we can find pieces. It isn't a definitive spot, like other than obviously a forward. That's the definitive spot to me. And I do feel like the leaky bobble or the leaky goals and all that kind of stuff is that can be fixed. I feel like if anything, Bob, we know he can put the defense in shape and get them working. I got a feeling there's just a lot other things right now that makes it so that's not as high on the priority. Because we need to score goals.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, especially when you look around the league and you see like Vitiello is doing Vitiello things, and Jamali Waite is doing Jamali Waite things, and you look, Nate Dos Santos, who was at this game for some weird reason, but is like crushing it with the Battery, and Ordonez is crushing it with Louisville, and it's just like, ugh, guys.
Didn't Charleston have an off week?
Yeah, they did. I think they played midweek. Yeah. But the fact that he was just like, yeah, I'll come to Pittsburgh and catch a game, like that's cool.
See the boys. Yeah.
I mean, good for him.
Yeah, talked to him a little bit, not much, but I just said like, "Oh, you're here for the bobblehead, huh?" It's like, yeah, you know it. I get here for that.
It's a big draw, man. It's a big draw.
Understandable.
I think thumb wise, I'm probably like southeast or like southwest. Like I'm not fully like down, but I mentioned that knife edge. I'm really worried because, as I mentioned, our next 3 games are at Charleston away. They're currently number 2 in the league. They were like tearing it up, and then I think they have a loss and a draw in their last 2 games. But they still know how to score. Hartford away, which we tend to like mock. They are currently number 9 in the East. We are number 10. So like, joke's on us until we get past them. And then Louisville at home, and Louisville have once again reclaimed the number 1 spot in the East. So our next 3 games are against 3 teams that are all above us in the standings. 2 of them are number 1 and 2. So
and can score a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, who knows? We could be sitting here 3 games from now going, remember when we were so worried? Or we could just be like, guys, we are really, really bad.
I think it's justifiably worried. I think we have no shame. Even if we were to pull it around and actually start, winning games, this is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Well,
on that positive note,
I was gonna say, I'm like, I kind of feel I want to end on a positive. I don't know if I can.
Pride Raiser went really well.
Pride Raiser, yeah.
We started that. If you don't know about that, it basically you give a pledge for how much money you want to donate per goal. in the month of June.
Can it be goals against?
Nope, it has to be goals scored. So be generous because we might not have many. And then at the end of Pride Raiser, you tally up the goals and you give that much. And our donations this year is going to Prasad Center. We also, like we mentioned before, have our Pride scarves going, and those are pretty awesome. If you haven't seen them, check Steel Army's social media. They're all over the place. They look great. So yeah, that's positive. That's some cool.
That is a positive. On a personal note, we got a new website, so you can go to mongols.com again, which like for a while you couldn't, and now it's a thing, but it'll take you to like all of our shows and episodes and where you can find us on social media and all of that. So slowly starting to build up some more stuff there. So stay tuned for that. And I guess, this week, this is like week 2 of us doing 8 bajillion shows a week, which has been fun. Like I've enjoyed it. We're heading into week 3. I've already got an interview lined up with a member of the regiment, which is one of the multitude of supporters groups for the battery. So we'll get their feeling on what's going on over there in Charleston. Lining up a player interview, as I mentioned, I think it's going to be Robbie Mertz. So if you've got questions for Robbie, send them my way. We will we'll definitely get those to him. And then we'll do our prediction show. And we'll sort of see how we feel after hearing from, a supporter of the battery and Robbie Mertz. And, if you have any predictions about what you think is going to happen, we've sort of put out the call on social media. Feel free to share. It doesn't have to be a score prediction. It can be like, I think we're going to start Gabby this week, or I think our heads are going to explode after the battery put up 5 on us. Like what? It could be silly stuff, and we'll read them on air during that show. But another exciting thing. Just as a little teaser, I'm working on something really cool with our buddy John Morrissey at USL Tactics that is going to be a lot of fun, something a little bit different than what we've done normally, but it's going to be a really cool collab. So just the little teaser for that. He and I are sort of working out the script and the details and figuring it out, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So if there's anybody that you'd like us to talk to, or you think there'd be cool conversations to have, let us know, because especially in this new format of where we're doing, shorter shows here and there, that leaves the opportunity to sort of do more sort of one-off, smaller kind of fun conversations about things that could be really cool. So I guess that's a positive as well. Yeah. Any other closing thoughts, guys?
No.
Alrighty. That's all we have. Make sure that you go subscribe on your podcast player of choice, or go check us out on YouTube. Otherwise, thanks everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.